physicists. Neil Armstrong may have seen extraterrestrials on the moon.
When he spies a discernible shape.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
You can deny all the things I've seen, all the things I've discovered, but not for much longer. Because too many others know what's happening out there. And no one, no government agency has jurisdiction over the truth.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Full Spectrum Universe. My name is Rob Yox. We have an amazing show for you today. We have one of my personally favorite people on this planet, a gentleman by the name of Aage Nost. He is part of Broadcast Team Alpha. He is also a researcher, an international speaker, an acclaimed author. He has experienced more levels on this planet than I have. Hopefully this week will bring us into level 40 very, very soon. And without further ado, I'm going to bring on Aage. Aage, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing wonderful. Just don't know any other way to do it, so I'll keep doing that.
Excellent, excellent. I'm so excited that you're here. Me and Aage just did a conference together called Forgery Unmasked, or a summit, shall I say, with 28 speakers running over 3 days. What a marathon it was! But I must have been digesting information for about 7 days still after the fact of. Like, I'm still in the process of going through all the clips and really absorbing everything. I mean, it was such a fantastic thing.
Oh, yes. I tell you, those 3 days, they re-educated me on a lot of things. Some of it we already knew, but we needed to hear it again because now we remember it a lot better. And the education that we got there, it is beyond imagination, because there are some researchers here that has gone the length and really gotten the information from the universe and brought it back to us, where we cannot find it in writing even. So that was wonderful.
It was, and one of the things that popped in my head too is like the saying that your mother used to say to you: you still have yet to learn the things that I have forgotten. Because all those things that resurged after you like actually go through the topic again, and you're like, oh my God, I do remember that. Holy cow. After you've stared into the book and the abyss for so long, it just, everything starts to come back after a while. And, Aage has written multiple books. This gentleman is super high frequency. He is high frequency intellectual, which is something that's right up my alley. I love talking to people like you, Aage. You have no idea. We could literally sit here and talk about everything and anything. So with that being said, what are some of the topics that you want to talk about today?
Oh, well, we can pretty much go anywhere, but I know there's two things that people like us, especially people maybe a little bit more, I don't want to use the word old, but chronologically advanced, they're interested in. And that is the fact that one of them is that in 2009, 3 doctors got the Nobel Prize for discovering an enzyme that reverses the aging process, and nobody told us. Now that is worth listening to, because, I want to cover that and actually explain how this can be done. It can be simple, but nobody seems to know about it, and it's kind of like a black hole right there. Nobody dare to talk about it because it doesn't fit the agenda. But I want to wait with this and towards the end of the show, because there's something else that is just as important, and I think maybe even more important. That is understanding who we are, what is the universe around us, and how do we fit into that plan, and maybe what is the plan for us for being here. Now, that could boggle the mind a little bit too. So do you think that'll work?
Absolutely. I think that is exactly where we need to go. And I think that you are right on the money. There is so many different things at play. Sometimes it's hard for us to figure out or decide where our place is, And one of the ways that we accelerate finding our places, examining experience from different sides, your experiences, my experiences, everybody's experiences, try and show us and help us to find those paths or the things that we need to do to recognize to maintain our status within this universe.
Yeah.
It's for everybody. The status is one of the most important things that people see, but we're not talking about status on a superficial level. There's a status on a universal level is where it's a lot different. And I think we can go into that a little bit too, but just for the people who may not know you like myself, Aggie, tell us how you got started in this industry of researching and speaking and putting on these classes that you put on that are mastermind classes. Everybody should go check out Aggie's website and essentially take these classes. I've heard nothing but great things. I myself am going to take part, hopefully, in a class sometime soon. And I mean, this is incredible. I just, give the people a little bit of your backstory.
Oh boy, I guess it started back in the dark ages, back in Europe, uh, when I grew up on a farm back there, and you have a lot of freedom on the farm. So I got to study, and I always was a little different in my thinking, and I started looking into science a little bit early. And I actually, at the age of about 11 or 12, I built a UFO detector that I actually got to work. And I saw things in the sky, 3 times that shouldn't be there. And that just really fueled the fire. What is that? And I started going after that. And beyond that, I went into hypnosis and developing the curiosity of the mind, and start developing the mind to do things that normally other people couldn't do. And at the age of 25, I came to the United States to become a commercial pilot. And I did that. I got all the licenses that you can get, except I never got into the big airplanes like the Boeing 747s and so on. Me and a partner had a flight school, an international air taxi, and an air carrier, but we were mostly with freight and smaller airplanes, turboprops, King Airs, and stuff like that. But on the other hand, I started, after I quit flying, I started researching the mind. And I was teaching a mind development course called ZOX Pro Training, where we actually are able to teach people how to assimilate information from a book at the rate of 50 to 100,000 words per minute with 95% retention. And yeah, it can be done. Wow. So that's something to think about. And beyond that, I was practicing hypnosis, and also we got into astral travel. And I started doing radio shows, being a guest on radio show first, and also on TV shows in Omaha. And from there on, I moved to Tucson, and I ended up hosting and producing 2 TV shows in Tucson, and also ended up with some radio shows on my own. And here I am again, doing the same thing, because it is so fun that I really enjoy it, because I get to spread some of the truth and education that is hard to get your hands on otherwise.
Well, I agree with that, and that's one of the biggest things I think us as broadcasters or podcasters, whatever you want to claim us or call us, we are here to just throw this information out there, and if it sticks to the wall with some people, usually they come back because it's fascinating, because we take our time and present it in a way that's digestible, and some of it is very difficult work, but when we translate it down into the words that need to be said and the things that need to be heard, it sticks. And then the people that it sticks for, they do their own research and start going down some of the same places or same avenues that we have. We can call it a rabbit hole or an avenue, whatever the case may be. But, one of the things that personally I love is history, and coinciding history with today, because they always say that if you know your history, you can almost predict or be prepared for the future, because history is a pattern and it repeats itself, just like the planet has a pattern, evolution has a pattern, and there's so many things, like I said, at the summit that we touched on. Guys, you can still get tickets for the summit as well if you haven't gotten it yet. Go to Forgery Unmasked and you can unlock the key to the universe,
Yeah.
essentially.
Absolutely. And some of this information and this truth out there is so well hidden, it's hard to get your hands on. And that's the advantage with us, because we find the speakers that know some of that information and truth, and we bring it forward. Without people like us, maybe nobody would know except for the guys that did the research. And we're helping in a good way, and I feel good about that.
Absolutely. And imagine that it was only those people who actually did the research that would try and get the stuff out. I couldn't even fathom what the world would be like without people that were spreading information, because, you know, one of the people that I mean, what your work is has set foundations for so many people after yourself,
Yeah.
like myself, to be able to facilitate this need for information too, and finding the right stuff to look at and some of the right ways to go about it and presenting it. So I commend you, sir. And
Oh,
also, like I said, with the mastermind classes, you're literally helping people on a personal level and a mental level too. And that to me is super admirable, and we need more Aage Nosts out there. That's for sure.
yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, and we'll give the listeners the link here to participate in this mastermind if they would like to later on. But let's see if we can really blow somebody's mind here, because science now is coming around to the fact that the world is not as we have been told. It's totally different, if it even exists at all. Now, quantum mechanics is coming around to that, especially theoretical physicists now, they are telling us that we live in a self-aware, holographically generated and mind-created universe. Boy, that's a long one. Uh, let's see if I can say that again. There's some science behind this, and we live in a self-aware, holographically generated and mind-created universe. And there really is some science behind that, because theoretical physicists are now coming out and saying that, wait a minute, Newtonian physics are missing some things here. And there is a theoretical physicist, his name is James Gates. And he says that his equations on the blackboard, using the principles of quantum mechanics, he says that deep in the equations explaining the fundamental particles of the universe, the fabric of space, they find computer language. Ones and zeros, and concepts representing ones and zeros. So that tells us also that there's a computer somewhere, there's an intelligence behind this. And the intelligence may be whatever it is in form of computer language. And these particles and the equations representing these particles, he says, is too symmetrical and too organized. It cannot be by random. And these particles representing the fabric of space, we are made of those particles because we are within this fabric of space. So if we are made of those particles, everything around us is as a whole a computer program. And I understand that. I'm more concerned about who's sitting at the computer. Wouldn't that be a
Yeah.
good question?
Yeah.
Now, what also quantum mechanics is coming around to the fact that, yes, there's an intelligence behind this universe that we are in. But our universe that we create here, the guy at that computer is us. Though we are using a computer program, that is universally accepted. That's the master plan, or the universal mind that has a common set of principles that we are using that computer program, creating everything around us as a hologram projected by our mind into our existence around us. And everything happens around you, in your life, you created somehow. Now, this one is hard to wrap our head around, but I have an analogy that can probably explain it a lot more simple. Excuse me. It will explain it fairly well. I am a hypnotist. If I put you in a soft chair and talk to you for about 10 minutes and tell you that when you wake up, you're going to see an elephant standing next to you in the room. So when I snap my finger, bring you back out, you're going to see that elephant. You can reach out and touch the snout on that elephant. You can feel the rough skin in your hand. You can hear him breathing. You can smell him. But there is a problem. I can't see that elephant because there is no elephant there. But you can see him. You can feel him. That elephant is absolutely real to you. But it's not to me because I can't see it. So now the question becomes, that elephant is real to you. What happened? Did your real world go away? Because that elephant is there, but I can't see it, so it's not there for me. What's the difference between that world with the elephant in it and the other world you had before the elephant? What is the difference? Is there any? Any difference? Well, no, there isn't. The only difference is that one of these existences is more lasting, longer lasting, and more persuasive, more predominant in your life because you have decided that it should be. If you kept reinforcing the elephant long enough, that elephant will become real to you. Doesn't that tell you that your mind can create a reality around you that does not exist but is appearing real to you? That is what we have done in our daily life. We have created this thing around us. We put stuff in it that our mind has created, and we are living it. Now the question is, we are predominantly negative in our mind, most people. We are saying, oh, we're worrying about things that could happen, but usually won't. And why don't we keep creating things that we do want in our life, positive things? And there is a language for us to do that. If we, well, let's first say, whatever we have around us created in our existence is on the basis of what we allow to fester in our mind. And also there's a mind here in the heart. There is a small brain in the heart, actually, with 75,000 neurons that creates emotion and all kinds of other good things. Now, if we start creating good things in our life here, it will start manifesting itself outside of us also. But that language to create that is not a language of words. It's a spiritual language, a quantum language. That is a language of emotion, vivid, colorful images, love, Gratitude for already having something that we don't necessarily have physical yet, but we have it here. We walk around in it and live it. Because the subconscious mind doesn't know and does not distinguish between something that it imagines and something that is real physically. So we can create this image of what we want to have happen in our life in colorful images with emotion, love, and colorful images. We place that into the future somewhere at a time-coded event. And now, every day we go back and forth and visit that thing that we created. And as we do every day, we lay down small, very tiny attractor strings to it outside of the physical. Those strings will draw us up that timeline into that thing in the future that we created in our mind. And let's say we placed it at a New Year's party where people are standing around toasting this thing that you have accomplished. When that New Year's party come around, if you also help do whatever you can to make this thing happen, as well as you build it in your mind strong with more detail and more power, more intention, more colorful images, when that New Year party happen, you can just walk into it and it is yours. That's how the mind works. The super successful people of the world, that's how they do it. I was sitting in the back of the airplane of a billionaire back in Omaha here many years ago, and he said one thing: I don't start anything new unless I build it in my mind first. That's how they do it. Why should not we do the same thing?
I agree with that. And that is one of the things that's just amazing. There's so many things that you said right there that are profound in itself, right? We always hear this saying, trust your heart, not your head.
Yeah.
And now you're saying that there's 75 neurons within the heart that is actually working as a brain. So that's actually, it means so much more now, knowing that information. And this is one of the subtle things that I personally love. You know, we hear these things and they trigger these thoughts, and we have to explore these thoughts. And I'm sure, you know, one of the things this is the Mastermind Connection. It sounds like this is some of the stuff that you talk about where you're essentially manifesting what you want to happen and you're using those strings to draw those events to happen at a later date. And anybody who wants to take part in Aage's Mastermind Connection, you have to email the Mastermind Connection at gmail.com to get the Zoom link. And I suggest that everybody does, because even if you take away just the ability to think ahead 10 steps and put those 10 steps together in a way that are attainable and congruable, you can have everything that you've ever wanted with life. Like you said, the most successful people use this vehicle to propel themselves into these situations that they ultimately prosper from. And, you know, some people are worried about money too, but most of the people like me and Aage are worried about that spiritual growth. And this is a place where you'll find that spiritual growth.
Absolutely. And this Mastermind Connection at gmail.com. Send us an email and I'll get you the link, because we do these kinds of things every Sunday, and we do things on Monday and Wednesday also, and you'll get information about that. This is something that Nori Love and I put together a little over a year ago, and we have done some incredible things with it. And if I told you some of it, you probably wouldn't believe it anyway, because it defies the laws of physics. You see, the mastermind, the definition of a mastermind is when two or more minds are united in harmony. They create a third mind that has the potential mind power of the two or more of them multiplied by each other. If 1,000 people get together and concentrate on one thing that they want to have happen, it is no longer just a thought. It is now an energy, a creative energy. And you have 1,000 times 1,000, that makes 1,000,000 minds of creative energy focused in one direction. I tell you, that is very powerful.
Absolutely. And there's actually evidence of this throughout, and I said this during the summer too. There's evidence of this on a ton of different avenues, right? So
Yeah.
we look at religious faith, and religious faith has people pray in congregation. When they pray and put their intentions into a congregation, that's when sometimes miracles happen, or things are swayed for a different position than they are now. I mean, there's so many different ways we could talk about it. That's just an example, but this is essentially a spiritual way to focus yourself, focus your energy, and then, like I said, achieve the things that you want, because you are blending with all these people who are going to help your intent and keep your focus moving forward at the same time too. It's brilliant. That's brilliant, Aug. It's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing.
What you just said, though, is exactly right. Because if a congregation get together in prayer, let's say they pray for someone or they pray for something to happen, they create a form of mastermind, and they join minds towards that one end, that purpose, and that becomes powerful.
It sure is. It
Yeah.
sure is. I mean, there's it, and Nori is an amazing person too. Tell us a little bit about Broadcast Team Alpha and how that came together as well. You guys do a show that is a podcast slash broadcast.
Yeah, Broadcast Team Alpha, we've been doing that for, oh gosh, a couple of years, or at least. And we set it up. So, the thing is that us as show hosts, we don't get enough airtime a lot of times. You may have noticed that for yourself. There's things that you want to say, but you just can't say it because you got guests on. So that's why we do both guests and we do shows of our own to get our message out. And by doing that, we got a lot of shows on there, broadcastteamalpha.com. And just go there and scroll down into the shows, and you will find a lot of interesting stuff. Two documentaries that Nori and I did. We one is called the Mars Pictures, and the other one is the Moon Pictures, and it shows you what NASA has brought down in picture, and they haven't told anybody. There is things and people both on Mars and the moon, and I got pictures of it there. And also, if you go into the picture gallery, there is 5,000 some pictures of things that really should not exist, but it does.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And that's one of the things about a show too, is you guys get to explore so many different subjects too. And Augie has asked me to come on Broadcast Team Alpha, and I'm gonna let you know right now, you guys are gonna get plenty of airtime, because we're just gonna go back and forth like a regular conversation like we're having now. It's gonna be incredible. I love talking to you, and Nori is a special person as well, and she is amazing. She's
Yeah.
amazing, and the things that she does too is just incredible. So guys, definitely go to broadcastteamalpha.com and check this out if you haven't already. I'm sure you're already there. It's funny because a lot of our audience they're all pulled together because they're seeking the same types of knowledge that we all kind of touch on, and
Yeah.
I think that it's incredible. And some of the things you do, like I said, with this Mastermind Connection, and then bringing the information to the people, I mean, there's this time in everybody's life, right, where they feel like they have to do something like this. What was that moment for you that you felt like, you know what, I really have to start putting this out there in a show, or in presentations, in documentaries, so people can get this information? What was that one spark to you that was the linchpin that offset that motion and process?
I think the media part of what I've been doing that came from back in Omaha, Nebraska, when I was kind of doing a study group there, and one of my friends he worked for a TV station, and he said, "Hey, there is this anniversary of the United Nations coming up here," and that was in 1997, I think, and he says. We need to have a contrarian view of what the UN is. You want to talk about it? And I said, sure. So he came over and we set it up in our living room. And I did about a 5-minute talk on the UN, what the real purpose of the UN is and what they have done that the media do not cover, like one world government, and even all the way back into Katanga when the UN with blue helmet, they were driving down the street and killing everybody on the sidewalks. That was when Katanga went down the tubes and a new country emerged because the UN wanted some puppet in there instead of the one that had freedom for their people. Now, the UN is a strange organization, and I got a little bit of a flack for that. But I tell you, it woke me up to the fact that people need to hear the other side of the story. So I started doing radio interviews, and I didn't have any shows of my own back in Omaha. But after I got to Tucson, 3 months later, I ended up with a TV show. So from there on, it went.
That's incredible too. Yeah, no, and that's the thing too is just like what I'm doing with preparing Full Spectrum Network website, where we're going to take on mainstream media. It's going to be the alternative to left or right type of politics, and just give facts, not so much op-eds on where I think it should align. Just essentially documenting the factual evidence and what we have to put forward, as opposed to giving my conjecture to that argument. And if we do something that has pertaining to an argument, we're going to do both sides within the same article. So
Yeah.
people can make their own assumptions and not be told what to think or how to think it. They can get the facts, get the situation, and say, okay. And it's almost going to be like a question at the end. So what do you think? You know what I mean? Like that. And I think that there needs to be more of that out there. I know you guys do that all the time too. And it's, the evidence is the evidence. It's hard to bury things that shouldn't be buried. And eventually this is two sayings. Everything comes to the light. And if it doesn't come out in the wash, it'll come out in the rinse. So eventually it's going to come to the surface. We just want to be on the precipice of it and try and give it to you before somebody else tells you that's going to sway it by perception and how they want to control that information, I guess we could say. And it's something I try and pride myself on too. And I think that journalistic type of integrity is what's lacking in actual journalism and media today. And we need to get back to this place where we can have open forms of discourse and talk, and people not get so offended by things, because when you get offended, that's an emotional reaction. You're not truly absorbing what the other person says. And I think that within that soup, we have lost the noodles, I guess. So that chicken fell out of the soup bowl a long time ago. We need to get it back in there,
Yeah. We gotta keep refilling the soup. We just gotta keep doing it, because we're on the front line of many of these things, and people look to us for information. And if they get it, that is great. If they don't get it, maybe a month later they'll get it. So it's kind of like a salesperson. You gotta ask for the order at least 3 times. First time people say no, second time they say no, but the third time they might just, well, maybe he's got a point, I think I'll do it. So we got to do the same. We got to keep putting the truth out there. And maybe they don't buy it the first time, but if the second time or third time or fifth time, they may realize that, he's on to something. There's something here.
I agree. I was a car salesman on and off for about 15 years. So I know all about that. And then, it's a tough game. It's a tough game to get into. But you know what? This is one of the things I like to say too, is that I suggest if you have an opinion, make a show, get it out there. You never know who's willing to listen or who wants and needs that information that you can affect. Because I feel that even if we affect 1 to 2 people every time we come on air with something different, so they can actually go and find the information for themselves, or we spark an interest where they go back to those researching phases and try and figure out what's going on themselves. I really do. I hope that that's what we do, and I try and strive for that too. Where we get people back to doing their own analysis so they can figure it out for themselves. Because that critical thinking step is another thing that we lack amongst society. We get force fed these things, and people just take it at face value. I've never taken anything at face value. I come from New York. And if you start taking things at face value, you're going to end up in some really seriously bad situations
Yeah.
somewhere down the line, whether you want to or not.
Yeah, and those bad situations, they arise from the fact that we are living in a totally locked down, controlled society.
Right.
And I am a student of history too. I've gone back and read a lot, even back to the Sumerian tablets, and I see that back 35,000 years ago, there's no difference. It was totally controlled by the Anunnaki back then, and all the way up to today. And unless things changes, it's going to be an even worse controlled society very soon.
Absolutely.
So we got to do, and controlled society. Here we go. I mentioned at the beginning here that there is a way to reverse the aging process.
Yes.
And nobody seems to know about it because nobody hardly talks about it. There are doctors out saying, oh, we got some new research and this is going to get expensive and so on. Yeah, nothing will surface unless the establishment can make money on it. And as I said in the beginning of the show, there were 3 doctors that got the Nobel Prize for discovering this enzyme that reverses the aging process. And it is actually fairly simple. And this should be the most highly publicized medical news this millennia. But I don't hear about it much. Why do you think that is? Well, imagine that we can see what would happen to Social Security and the pension programs if people quit dying, right? I wouldn't be very well for those programs because they would have to probably replenish them, otherwise they get depleted. And this is not just me saying this. Go to the Nobel Committee's website, go to 2009, scroll down again to medical submissions, and read the papers. You're going to like it. Because in there, they show how this is possible. Now, they did the initial research was done on mice, but since later on, this was in 2009, that's 12 years ago, and a lot of extra understanding and more development now has happened, so that it's been a lot more understanding of how we can do this and be more effective than even back then. Somewhere in those papers, there is a phrase that one of the doctors said. If we have, and that's, I think I can quote it, if we have enough of this enzyme in our body, there would be no reason why anybody would need to die from old age anymore. Now that's powerful. And I know enough about the Nobel Committee. They are in Oslo, Norway, where they give these things out. And I'm from Norway, so I've been reading a lot about them back there. And the thing about it is, the Nobel Committee, they are so stringent, excuse me, that if they find anything wrong in any of the papers submitted, they will throw out the whole thing. So they found that when they made that statement, there was actually science behind it. And I am doing this, and it seems to work for me. I 5 years ago, but that was before I started doing this particular program that I'm doing now. I started to look a little ragged. I had some gray hair, and well, I was starting to look ragged. Especially the last year, I've improved a lot. I feel I don't have much for gray hair anymore, and some of the wrinkles are going away. So at 75, I think I'm doing all right. And now I found some really old people. And yeah, I know you're waiting for the for the name of this enzyme. I'm going to tell you now. It's called telomerase. Telomerase, maybe. I don't know how you would pronounce it. That could be different ways. But hang on to that name, and I'll tell you more about that later. I found some really old people, though. One of them was a university professor that came from China to New York on an exchange program back in the mid 1950s. He went out for dinner with some colleagues one time, and he got food poisoning and died. He ended up at the morgue. They got through his papers, and they called the ambassador and said, "Hey, there's something wrong here. This guy is 154 years old. That can't be." And the ambassador said, "Yes, he is." And they asked the ambassador, "How can that be?" And the ambassador told them, first of all, he did not believe he could ever die. And secondarily, he only eat Chinese herbs and berries for food. I can understand how he croaked from the New York diet. But on the other hand, that tells you something. And then I found another guy. The government verified his age. Xing Yuan. He was a martial art instructor for the Chinese army for as long as anybody ever could remember. And he died from an accident at 256. And for those of you out there, researchers, go ahead and Google the 256-year-old man, and you can read about it. In fact, a few years after he died, the New York Times found out about it, and they had a reporter in Japan at the time, so they sent that reporter to China to investigate this, and they went to the village where Xing Yuan lived, and they talked to the people there, his relatives, and some of them, and they proved to him that, yeah, this is true. And they showed the reporter documents from the government, letters from the government actually, congratulating him on his 200th birthday and his 250th birthday. And there was some other papers, birth records and so on, that was written into the time when he was born back in 1670 something. So yeah, these things happen, but they live different than we do. They don't subscribe to the Western diet. And see, science knows the cause of death. Why do we age and why do we die? The science know, they figured it out. That started back with the Genome Project in the 90s. But it has been a lot more understanding since then. The genetics is not that important. It's the mind that controls the genetics that is really important. That is one of the reasons why the ambassador said he did not believe he could ever die. That is a very important part of it. Because we can get to that point also. If we know this is possible and we start doing what it takes in order to stop or even reverse the aging process. And if we believe that strongly enough, we can actually do that. And I want to talk about the causes for aging and death. Because first of all, there's only one cause for the aging eventual death. And that is, there's many contributory causes to that, but only one cause that actually causes that to happen. And that is the shortening of the telomeres at the end of the chromosomes inside your cells. telomeres are a little hardened portion at the end of the chromosome, somewhat similar to the tip of a shoelace that is hardened, so you can thread that to the shoe and tie your shoes together. And when the cells divide, every time they divide, the telomeres are getting shorter and shorter and shorter and shorter until there is nothing left. And when they get to the point where there is very little left, then the end of the chromosome start fraying, and the cells are no longer able to replicate themselves. And you get stuck with old cells in the body. You get more and more of the old died cells, and you start looking older and older, and you become older and older physiologically, with more and more dead cells in your body, and you get too many of them, and you eventually will die. If the telomeres at the end of the chromosome are stopping itself from being shorter or even lengthening, which you can do, then the cells will be able to replicate themselves, and now you get new cells, and you can maintain a younger body, or maintain the way you are, or even become younger physiologically. This is a phenomenal concept, and it is very possible. I wrote a book where I explain exactly how I'm doing this, what I'm doing here. And the book, I have no shame, I got to show you. Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness. I explain what I'm doing in there. And there are several ways you can attack this challenge. And that is, you can go and get the pharmaceutical now that says you can help the body build itself and create its own telomerase of the enzyme. You can go out and get the pharmaceutical TA-65. That is said to do the same thing, and it probably works. I've researched and I found some people say, no, it didn't do a thing for me, and other people say it was wonderful. So the people that says it was wonderful, they probably believed it works. So I think it can be done, but it'll set you back about $400 for $350 for. You can buy it on Amazon and different places. But I'm doing it the way Xing Yuan did, that died at 256. And I'm doing it with Chinese herbs and diet and a mental condition of knowing that doing these things, I don't have to die from old age. I'm sure that we're nipping at the concept of immortality here, and I'm not so sure that can be done, because sooner or later you're going to step in front of a bus at 60 miles an hour and all bets are off. But if I'm going to die, and when I'm going to die, I'm going to make it my decision. I've done everything I want to do, so I'm ready to get out of here. It's going to be my decision. So now I am doing it with herbs, and there are two herbs that is more important than any of the others. One of them is astragalus. Astragalus, that there is a lot of research behind that is found that some of the research I read says that astragalus, taking in the high doses, work equally or even better than what the TA-65 will do. And another one is called Jiaogulan herb. In China, it is called the Immortality Herb. And this Immortality Herb, I buy it by the pound. So I take it in the morning, in the afternoon, in the evening, and yeah, I'm human, so there are times I forget. I only ended up with 2 maybe or something. And there are times when I'm gone, I don't get nothing for 3 or 4 days. But if you're on this, don't beat yourself up if you miss a day, it is okay. Just stay on it for the length of time. And this is something that I do, and anybody else that starts doing this, they're going to discover another thing that is very important, that once you start reversing the aging process, all age-relating diseases will go away. Dementia, any other things that is related to aging will go away because your body becomes younger, you get a better immune system, and you become healthier. And I'm hoping this could make a little bit of sense to people.
It makes a ton of sense to me, Augie. And if they, and again, we can revert back to history and look for the proof that with people who lived simpler lives or ate differently than we do now and had a higher consciousness as we know it because of their description and their stations in life, of course they were either some kind of royalty and they had all of those avenues that they could do. We could look at the Bible itself, where people were living to 900 years old. We can go back to ancient Sumeria and the list of kings that were some, yes, extraterrestrial, living for 20,000 years, 36,000 years. But when we go to the pharaohs of Egypt, they lived for 1,000 years before it was the end of their time. So we can look at all these different places where they've actually chronologically put this data down somewhere where we can look at it and say, look, these people live differently, and they lived a whole lot longer than the life expectancy is supposed to be, even at this advanced future where it's only, 67 now is the average. That's actually down from 72 40 years ago, which makes no sense to me. But, as we get more technologically advanced, you would think that we would live longer. But that's actually not the case. It's the less technologically advanced portion of our society for many, many thousands of years ago that actually lived a lot longer than we do now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it is, I'm buying these two herbs, and I'm buying a lot more. I got a lot of other things that I take, but these two, I think the astragalus, for a pound of it, I'm paying about $14, and that lasts me maybe close to a month. And the other one is probably about the same, maybe 15. So for about $30, less than $50 a month, you can actually do this. Now that's powerful.
Absolutely.
And that's why I go into a lot of more detail in the book about what I'm doing, and in there also I'm teaching a lot of other things. I'm teaching people how to use their mind in ways that you normally would think would be impossible, and that's a good thing.
Absolutely. I'm actually going to start getting onto this. So you're going to have to coach me a little bit to get it done and how you use these herbs. But, like I said, I'm going to be 40 on April 12th. So now is that perfect time. I want to try and keep that younger form of my body. And it's crazy too, because a lot of people, since being locked in, have slowly but surely felt the aging process catch up with them in a lot of ways because of the inactivity and the less contact and the mental instability of being away from society in that sense and not being able to communicate. Some people thrive off that. It's what makes them happy. So there was a lot of emotional and mental issues with the lock-in, but plus the physical issue. So I feel like now for me would be the perfect time to get on this and to do this. I should have been doing it since my 20s, and I could have still looked like I'm 25. But
40, you're just a snot-nosed kid.
I know. I still, you know what? I'm still a kid at heart too. So it's like I'm even further back than that, hopefully. But like it is, it is what it is. But I mean, this has been an incredible amount of information, Augie, and I appreciate you for coming on and giving us all this amazing stuff. That enzyme and the telomeres is just, they've, with the Genome Project, like you said, they figured out so much that they're just not putting forward. Yeah. And you have to dig for that information yet again to figure out what the they had a hypothesis and a theory, and they literally proved way past that theory of knowing exactly what was happening. They wanted to just figure out why, but they figured out the why, the how, and what way to stop it, in a sense, which is why you see a lot of these elite families. These people live, God knows, forever. These people, it seems like, that you can't get rid of them if you wanted to. Like you said, an accident's going to have to take them out. Then they look rather old too, but they're actually, they could be older than they say they are as well. There's a lot of deceit in there too. But,
Yep.
I mean, you see these people with the abundance of wealth, and they last for a very long time. And some of them don't, but, the ones that are smart do, I guess we could say, to preface that properly.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we actually we talked about the Genome Project, they did a phenomenal amount of work. They mapped the genetic structure of the human body. And of course, now we're using all of that for different other reasons that is very important. But they did come up with 3 things that was very important. I have a document on one of the other computers somewhere that they put together that was not published, because I knew the second in command of that project, and he sent it to me, and he says the secret of immortality has been discovered. And they said the 3 things that cause us to get old and die, and one of them is there's a nutritional deficiency, because the human body is a self-correcting machine if we give it what it needs to replenish itself. And we never do, because we go to the grocery store and buy pretend food with toxins in it. So we got to change our ways a little bit there. And the second one is a genetic disorder. The genetic disorder they talked about was 2 things. First of all, there is the lack of they talked about the shortening of the telomeres, but that was kind of in the passing. They didn't understand what that did. But they did talk about the fact that as we age, the drying up of the pituitary gland got to the point where it did no longer produce the amount of growth hormones that we need in order to replenish the body. Now, the third one, that's going to upset some people. They said the third reason why we get old and die is because of religion. Now, don't run off yet. I'm going to explain this. Religion, pretty much all religion tells us that as you get older, you're going to get old and you're going to die. That is a given. There's nothing that can change that. And when you get older, you start getting sick and you get pain in your joint, you lose your mind, you start forgetting stuff, and you are miserable. You don't have any excitement in your life anymore. Religion tells you that when you die, you're going to go to this better place. And when you're sick and you're hurt everywhere, that better place is starting to look pretty good. So you start to draw yourself towards it and you die.
Yeah, it's all about direction of thought. It's all about direction of thought. That's exactly what you were talking about with the Mastermind Connection, is, being able to see it and achieve it, and, correcting that process that you think upon your own free will, as opposed to thinking at, the stigmas, the dogmas of society in that sense. And that's, when you said something else before too, it really sparked something in me, right? They say that the human brain is like a computer, right? So if you are actually on a computer, right, and you're looking at and you're saving all your pictures and your memories in that computer, you're on a computer while accessing this computer, while the entire environment and the reality construct that we know is a binary code, which again, in turn, is a computer. Yeah. So it's a computer within a computer within a computer. How many times removed from that actual computer do we get before we realize where we have to go as a species, as a intellectual, conscious, spiritual being, to get out of that race and get out of that exponential computer de-evolution, I guess we could say.
Yeah. Well, there is a purpose for it all. And a lot of people say that, Well, you get born, you grow up, you live, and you die. What else? What else is there? Well, yeah, there is something else. This is a purpose for why we came here. We came here with some intentions of things that we wanted to accomplish because we made the agreement to do those things before we were even born. But boy, that's another show, because there's things going on the other side of the veil before we were born that determines what we do here. And I have some memories of that, and that's why I can say it. For me, at least, I know some of the things that I was supposed to do, and I've done some of them. Not done yet, but there is a purpose for it. We come here to learn and grow physically. We don't come here to go to dinner, to go to work, accomplish things, make money, and all these things, have stuff. No, we don't come here for that purpose. That is an extra that comes with our purpose.
I get that. And the superficial things don't lead to happiness anyway.
Right.
It's always the thought process and getting, like, one of the things, like I always say too, is when I research, it's not about so much finding that end fact or result. It's that whole journey of exploring all the different ways I can rabbit hole myself, shall we say, while on that process. I find this information. Oh, where does that lead? Then I find that information. Where does that lead? And ultimately we get to the end point. But, there is a great awakening happening now. And there are a ton of people who are getting on board with the thought process of us being spiritual. Our frequency levels are rising, and we are able to break this construct that has been around for at least 35,000 years that we know about, talking from ancient Sumeria to today. And I think that it's a phenomenal thing, and I love listening to you talk like that too, Augie. I mean, that information you give is gold. It is gold. We're coming up on the hour, and we're definitely going to have to do a part 2, Augie, of this. We're definitely going to have to, because we touched on so many things that we could elaborate on, and I so want to give that to the people as well.
Yeah, and remember when we were doing the conference, and we talked to Omar afterwards, and we talked about doing another conference where we actually involved astral travel and really out of the box.
That's going to be the next one. That's going to be the next one. We're focusing our energies on that right now, and hopefully in the next few weeks we'll have some semblance of a plan of who and what and when to say. I know we're trying to see if we can get away from Crowdcast because of the technical issues and the glitches, but we may be doing this one where it's not so much of and we haven't decided whether it's going to be a paid event or a free event. I'm not sure yet, but we're going to figure it out. And I know you're going to be right there with us, Augie. It's going to be intense.
Yeah, I don't really care, because it's a labor of love for me. So whatever you guys decide on that one, I'm with you.
I thank you, and I agree. All of it is a labor of love. The only reason why we do sometimes charge to get in is to pay for the expenses of putting it on. Other than that, we just want to make sure that everybody gets the info, And we love everybody. And Augie, I love you to death, man. You're a good friend, and I hope our friendship keeps progressing to the future. I can't wait to come and be on Broadcast Team Alpha. And so I'm gonna put up the websites. Everybody go, please. And if you're interested in some of the things that Augie said today, which I'm sure you are, because I mean, who wouldn't be? Go to the Mastermind Connection at gmail.com. Email Augie about going to his the Mastermind Connection, the classes that he gives on Sundays. Get yourself involved. Find your frequency and raise it. This is only going to help you. This man is doing an amazing work all around the board, whether it be media or in spirituality. He is bar none one of the best people I know, and everybody should go and get involved. It's something you can ultimately and truly benefit from on the most fundamental levels of your being. So also, I want to go and talk about broadcastteamalpha.com. You can check out all the shows that him and Nori do. Nori Love is an amazing woman. She's a great, great person, just like Aage is here. And they go over some of the most pertinent information and some of the most direct information about the truth and what is the truth and the constructs of what truth is on this program. And it is truly an exceptional program. I watch it all the time. I saw a couple episodes. I saw one with Michael Feely on it. It was incredibly intense. I mean, you guys do an amazing job. So with all that being said, again, I'm going to give you like 2 minutes. Just, if you want to say something to the audience before we go, and then I'll wrap this up for us.
Okay, well, let me talk to the people that's sitting on the fence. Let me shake the pole a little bit so you come off at least one side of the fence. Because do some more research and things will develop for you to the point where you can understand the truth, not just what you are told. What I said here in this show, don't necessarily believe it blindly. Do go and do your own research. Go to the Nobel Committee's website, read the papers, Google it, or should I say, maybe DuckDuckGo it, leave Google alone, and do your own research, because that's where I got a lot of stuff from there. So you can find the same things, and then come and join us on Sundays in the Mastermind. I'm getting emails from people weekly say they changed my life because now it's different. I got a different understanding. And I mean, some of the stuff that we've been able to do by joining our minds is just incredible. So come check it out. It may not be for you, but come and check it out and then find out. And visit us on Broadcast Team Alpha and go down and look at there's some videos there that I did and explains the universe, and I even how to stay healthy always, and all kinds of things there. And of course, check out the book, Spiritual Science, Higher Conscious Thinking, and How to Access the Universal Consciousness, where I teach people how to use their mind in ways they normally would think would be impossible. I also deal with time travel in here, one of the last chapters. It shows you how you can do these things, but there's only 2 people that I know that has actually pictorial evidence of time travel. I'm one of them, and it's on one of my websites. In fact, it's on the website. You can find it in the picture gallery.
Absolutely amazing. And thank you again, Aage. And I'm just going to say at the very end of this, what we've accomplished here today is we've given you a bit of an edge above everybody else. We're giving you the ability to go and look this stuff up for yourself, find ways to reverse your aging, and figure out ways to better your inner being, your frequency, and your mind. Question everything. And I mean, do you want to get younger looking? Do you want to feel better about yourself? These are the questions that everybody's asking themselves, but don't really know the answers to. We're trying to give you an outlet for those right now, or at least explore what they are. And also, like Aage said, don't trust what we say. Do it all yourself, because that journey in itself will change you for the better as well. It'll open your mind to a lot of different things that you may not have known that were there, or help you get into things or look into things that you may not have thought you were interested in. Life is a journey, and we're going to be on it for the long haul, me and Aage. And a gentleman like Aage is so filled with information, and he tries to help people on so many different levels that he is some of the best of us. He should be held in some of the highest esteem that there is. I truly enjoy this gentleman's, the way he presents it, the way he talks about it. And, he's my people. Aage is my people. And
well, thank you, but quit talking like that. I'm going to get big-headed before you're done.
Well, I have to say it. I have to say it because you guys, I look up to you guys. You guys have paved the way for us and what we do, and it's remarkable. And I have to give you that credit, because without people like you, Aage, people like me wouldn't be here right now. So, and I'm not saying I'm held in any high esteem, but I wouldn't be where I am. And I ultimately am appreciative of that, and I thank you. And like I said, I love you to death, brother. And everybody out there, I appreciate you coming by and listening. We're definitely going to do a part 2 to this one, because we literally barely scratched the surface. We just touched on two small points. Me and Augie could go on for almost probably days. If we had the energy to go for days, we could go for days. But at this moment in time, we're only going to leave you with that, just to give you a pique your interest a little bit and have you come back.
Okay, and also one last thing for the people that is watching this later on, go to Broadcast Team Alpha and look for the interview that Nori and I did with Rob, which is supposed to happen very shortly, but by the time you see it, it is past news. So go look at it, because that's going to be a good one too.
I can't wait. I can't wait. It's going to be amazing. I can't be, me and you can go on the conversation, and then you throw Nori into it. It's going to be like the trifecta, because she comes from a totally different angle than a lot of us do. And that's incredible. Incredible.
Oh, yeah. I got to chime in on this one, because me and her have worked together probably for about 3 years or so now. And the thing about, we think different. And I'm more into the nuts and bolts part of the world, where I want an explanation, and she is on the spiritual side more so, and the feeling and the emotion, and she put color to what I talk about, and that's why we overlap so well. We don't agree on everything, but
you guys get the complete experience, is what you
yeah.
do. The complete experience, which is all you could ask for. I mean, literally, you can't ask for better than that. It's really what it comes down to.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay.
All right, guys, this has been an incredible. We're gonna sign off now. Please check out the YouTube Full Spectrum Universe. If you're seeing this live on Facebook, or if you're watching this on YouTube, go to our Telegram. We have a Full Spectrum Universe Telegram channel. We are also on Facebook itself. Please go and like and follow the page. We just hit 1,000 followers yesterday, and we're slowly but surely making our way up the echelons here. But I want to thank everybody for joining, and this is Full Spectrum Universe. My name is Rob Yax. That's Aage Nost, and we are signing out.